opening statement on why you oppose slavery?
I oppose slavery because the moral and just people of the abolitionist movement agree that the United States cannot endure half slave and half free. The immoral slaveholders of the South believe it is not only agreeable, but a necessity, both economically and politically. This is not true. It is not right to subject an entire population, an American population, to cruel and barbarous activities. The only thing slavery has managed to achieve is an unstable South built in fear. This anti-American and anti-Christian practice needs to be ended immediately. Why do you favor slavery?
I favor slavery because the crazy fanatics of the North imagine that the poor Negro, smarting under a galling sense of his degradation and inspired by a noble impulse of resistance to tyranny, is ready at a moment's warning to grasp the murderous pike and fight for his freedom. The people of the South feel the most perfect security in full assurance that they possess not only the willing obedience, but the strong attachment of their slaves. It is a most egregious blunder to suppose that we, who live in the enjoyment of all the benefits of the peculiar institution, live also in the constant dread of insurrection and rebellion, and go to our beds at night with the terrible apprehension that our throats may be cut before morning. Not a bit of it. We sleep as soundly and sweetly as though we were surrounded by an armed bodyguard of chosen defenders, in the confident belief that our ebony friends will not feel the slightest disposition to rise. Slaves were also an economic necessity, and they were not only a necessary evil, but a positive social good, because without slavery, there would be an unbalanced social hierarchy as seen in the northern states. And the landless poor blacks could be socially manipulated and destabilize the whole society. Not only was slavery supported by the white farmer class, but it was also supported by people seen in powerful political positions, such as John C. Calhoun, who believed that slavery, with its strict and unchanging social hierarchy, made for a new stable society than that of the northern states, where wage laborers of diverse backgrounds made up democratic politics. So, without the slaves, we would have a very diverse background, which could lead to uprisings and many rebellions. But as you can see, the slaves are clearly under control, and they have homes, food, and they work and are an economic necessity.
The African race is in no way inferior, and this deplorable practice has taken many families away from their homeland. The Southerners do not have a moral compass and do not understand whatever wrong is wrong, no matter if others do it. There are many...
May I interject?
Excuse me, sir.
The Africans are not taken away from their homeland. We are saving them as Southerners from execution from their other tribes in Africa. And we do have morals and respect for them. If we didn't, they'd be dead. Continue.
All right, big boy, sit down. We got this. Come on, we got this
Instead
anti-slavery here.
Having them die, you subject them to many years of pain and cruelty. There's many alternatives to just taking away slaves from their homes. Yet instead, we still do it. And even though, yes, the Africans...
I suggest you sit down.
Execution.
Even though Africans do enslave other Africans, there would be no reason to do this if we stop the slave trade. If we take away slavery, then there's no reason why Africans would enslave Africans.
To counter that argument, slavery is not only vital to American trade, but to European trade also. Without slavery, the British economy would fall on a hole, because that is where they receive most of their exports and imports. And if the British did not export slaves towards us, or if we did not export slaves, the slaves would fall into the hands of the French and Dutch, which would mean a much crueler treatment and punishment and possibly execution. People argued that we ought to consider whether the Negroes in a well-regulated plantation under the protection of a kind master do not enjoy as great, nay, even greater advantages than when under their own despotic governments. That is coming from a Negro man himself, saying how his life was better when he came to America than when he was in Africa. That is showing how bad it is over there and how good it is here in the South. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm seeing clear distinctions of how slavery is kind of beating out pro-slavery or anti-slavery. Yeah, that's about it.
As was stated earlier, slavery is entirely anti-American. No man can be a slave owner and an American. Slavery makes America a nation where people have to flee for freedom. Owning slaves spits at the face of our Constitution. All men are created equal. Are they not? America was meant to be a beacon of democracy and freedom. Yet the slaves must flee this place even know what freedom feels like. And why shouldn't the slaves be free? Because as property, slaves may be subjected to as much cruelty as the master wishes. This is an inhumane system and has no real benefits for our country. The Southerners believe that slavery is an economical necessity. Yet many white people are unemployed due to a lack of work. Slavery hurts people not of color as well. However, the most terrifying thought is that the reality that slavery has the potential to cause war and death within our country. Slavery is an institution that demands nothing less than hostile relations between master and slave. Slaves fear the white man just as the white man fears the slaves. The slave fears the power that the white masters have over them, and the masters fear the possibility of uprisings, such as Nat Turner's rebellion. Not only is this unrest in the South, but on a larger scale in our own country, as war may come to pass. A civil war may come out of slavery, and slavery may just destroy the nation. So we have to destroy slavery so that our nation may remain united.
Go.
To close with, slavery is needed in the South. We have acres and acres of land that really could not be farmed and produced without the work of these slaves. They're an economic necessity to us, and they're basically part of our family, honestly. I mean, we can free them and then have them in our houses and live with us, and they help us out with daily chores and work out in the yard. And slaves, they have their freedoms. Don't get me wrong, they do, and they don't at the same time, but it's a price they're willing to pay to come here to America, home of the freedom, and live here rather than in their possibility of getting executed in Africa, living under cruel warlords in Ivory Coast, Namibia, Liberia, and Nigeria. And now, these traders may not have suited the best boats for the transport of these slaves. I mean, they're not like grade A cruise ships, but they get the job done, and it really separates the wheat from the chaff here, because it's showing how strong the slaves really are and how much integrity and willpower they have. And that's good. It's vital to the workforce here in the South. And those Northerners really have it out for us. I mean, they're just like liberal mudslinging idiots. But whichever side you choose, hopefully it'll be the right one. Go with pro-slavery.
To end with, slavery is an abomination, which is anti-Christian, anti-American, and does not help the economy. If something is wrong, it is wrong whether others do it or not. The argument that slavery is acceptable just because others do it, it's not true, and it can't be used anymore. Just because slavery existed in Africa doesn't mean that we have to do it. We can be better than they were. African people, they're no way inferior to us, and they should be treated as equals. And the trade that damaged Africa still damages the people that we took. I'll leave you with this. Is the rule of Great Britain that we suffered even half as bad as the rule that we placed over the slaves? Slavery goes against our foundation as a nation. We fought the British because we were treated poorly. And since we treat the slave poorly, we can expect the same. If the slave feel that they're being treated poorly, they will rebel against the South. So unless the South wants to have a war on their hands, they need to end slavery.
Okay. Smithy was the editor. Cade wrote these beautiful scripts. Brance, anti-slavery. Whoops.
Anti.
And Mr. Peterson, your boy, is on anti. Nice pro.